is like in response to losing my best friend ever. Ultimately, like I've gone through it in my heart, like losing her, honestly, and I don't tell people this, but because I'm like super positive and happy, like when I lost Jill, I felt at a moment like I wanted to kill myself. Like I felt like there was no justice at all that she would have to go and I'm here. Like, what the fuck? Are you crazy? For like a second, but then I rebounded and I came to myself. But literally for me, that really started my change, my transformation, and like communication. It's so powerful, it's so important, and I find it amazing how we communicate with each other, not just with our words, but with our eyes, with our faces. And I love the stuff that we do when you're not aware of it. Like I'm a bit of a voyeur, and I like to watch people, and I do it a lot. And just how people communicate, like, and when people get like this and what it really means and all that stuff, I find it really a strength. My bad, I feel like that was a bit of a tangent, but communication is so important to me. Please, someone else talk, because I'm good. Should I transfer this over?
Yeah. Somebody else clip it onto your phone.
Clip it on, brothers.
Yeah.
Get some shit going.
Yeah. Well, thanks for. Oh yeah, I gotta clip it. Boom. Look at that. Look at that. Thanks for sharing, man. Yeah. I don't know. I can relate. Yeah. I mean, obviously, this year has been a little bit of an interesting one for me and my. I don't know if Brandon shared with you guys, but in January, I got diagnosed with stomach cancer, and then a week later had to get surgery, and then a couple weeks after that found out that I had to go to California to do chemo, and just like the whole progression of everything was just like real heavy and real crazy. And I mean, it's kind of, I don't know, there wasn't a whole lot of people that I was really communicating with, I mean, in some ways yes, and in some ways no, but like for the most part, I guess, like really just like, it was the first time, because I've always felt like pretty tuned into myself and just feel like I'm like pretty aware of my feelings or whatever, just like things that I need to like get out, or things that I need to communicate to make sure that I'm functioning properly. And this past like 5 months or whatever, I mean, the last month's been real chill since I finished therapy, but the 4 months going through, oh, thank you, dude. Yeah, it was a pretty wild experience, bro. Yeah, we can talk about that a whole other time for sure. But yeah, it's just weird because it was so much more psychologically and emotionally than I was even kind of prepared for. And I think that like it was really the first time in my life that I was faced with a real challenge of things that I have, they're like new feelings and new emotions and thoughts that I'm not even really sure how I'm thinking or feeling. And so communicating those with, whether it's my wife or my family that's taking care of me, just to try to help myself feel better about what was going on, was like really, really hard to do. And so I think for everybody, communication is a skill, and just like by starting to open up more about how I was feeling and the things that I was thinking about. Because I mean, talk about like depression, and I've had like rough patches in my life before, for sure, without a doubt. But this year takes a cake, and like I really just like had never been in a place before where no matter what I do for like a consecutive amount of days, I like can't get out of this funk mentally. It doesn't matter if I like try to exercise or do something, So like when I was in those periods, I found it really important to try to communicate to my family and to my wife that like where I was at, because A, they could try to help me better then, and B, I don't know, it was just like, how it is, you hold things in and it starts boiling up, and eventually it boils over, and you either act out in a way that you want to act, or you're just like not happy with yourself, you're not feeling good, or you say something that you don't want to say. And like I found myself a couple times being like, you know, a little sassy and like, you know, a little bit like short or just kind of a dick really. And I would always reflect back on whatever it was and just be like, damn man, like, you know, like I don't know, it's just, and it's natural for us to do that sometimes, but I would always look back on it and it always would be, you know, I'm like frustrated with what I'm going through, and whoever's the closest one to me, you know, just is getting the bad, you know, the repercussions of me dealing with, I'm frustrated, I'm upset that I'm dealing with all this like life stuff, and since you're the one that's closest to me, like I'm, you know, you're gonna get, you know, the bad end of that. But I feel like learning, like practicing communicating how I was feeling and like going through it as I progressed through treatment was the way that I kind of like got, you know, we got better at dealing with it as we went through the whole process, you know what I mean? And I feel like just as a whole, like when we start to practice communicating with other people and with ourselves, it becomes a whole lot easier, but it can be really tough at first to like, you don't feel comfortable, you know what I mean? Especially like a lot of people probably wouldn't feel comfortable like meeting someone for the first time and just talking about whatever it is that we may talk about right now, or that, you know, that they may want to talk about, because for whatever reason we have this kind of like this wall up where just because I don't know you for some weird reason, there's some kind of disconnect between us being incredibly related as human beings and as people going through the human experience, you know? So I feel like once you like start practicing talking to people and start like working on communicating, it becomes a whole lot easier, and you really find that it's really beneficial. It feels good, you enjoy it, and it's like, it's kind of fun, you know what I mean? Like I don't know, like I love talking to people. I love like hearing about what's going on in your life, or like where you're from, or what your story is, what you want to do. Like those things are how we like understand each other more as people. It's how we understand ourselves more. And I don't know, I just feel like the more, if we could like scale that or like scale this, it would just be a real positive thing, you know what I mean? Could you imagine like communities where people just like, I don't know, like just are fully cool, yeah, and like cool with like comfortable expressing themselves. I feel like a lot of times people don't have a safe place, or they don't feel safe expressing themselves or what they're feeling or what their thoughts are. And so maybe it's just like creating those spaces, you know, for us to be able to know that whenever you're in that space, anything that you're saying or doing is 100% like judgment free, you know what I mean? And that's where like I feel like, you know, the more we hang and the more, if we decide to kind of make this somewhat of a regular thing, we can, I mean, obviously it sharpens our skills more than, you know, we can probably imagine, but by being able to like share this with individuals, I feel like it makes a really big difference in the quality of life that you have, you know what I mean? Like when you don't feel like you're like, you got so much shit to say, you got so much on your mind but you just don't really have an outlet. And I just feel like it's cool, we can create a space where if somebody feels that way, you come and you sit at this table right here, and you the floor is yours, you know what I'm saying? I don't know, I just think it's real cool that we're all here communicating with one another, and just kind of, I feel like dropping the pebble in the lake, which, you know, we all know about the ripple effect, and I just think it's cool that, you know, like this is the way you do make that kind of like impact in the people around you, is by leading by example, and, you know, starting with yourselves, and, you know, starting small. And I don't know, it's cool. It's been a good day, and I'm super stoked to be here with you guys. Yeah.
So how do you create that space for yourself, like especially during that experience, right? That this time that you just finished,
Mm-hmm.
and the whole process of it. Because I've worked with people that have mostly breast cancer is the area that I worked in, and movement therapy. And I was told I had breast cancer and things like that, and all types of stuff going on after that.
Man.
But mine just went benign. Mine too just went benign out of nowhere. And it was just,
Blessings, bro.
yeah. So didn't know actually how to even tell myself what I was feeling.
Right.
So how did you cultivate that space for yourself?
Again, I don't know. It's weird because obviously, I mean, with all the life experiences that I have been through, never have I dealt with something like this one, you know? And I think it was really just like coming to the realization that it was so completely unwritten and unpredictable, like what the adventure, like what that journey was going to look like. Even, you know, obviously the deeper you get into it, the more you kind of like learn to navigate your feelings and emotions and just what's happening. And I mean, I just like kind of started noticing a trend where, you know, first we found the tumor and then we had surgery, and then first I wasn't gonna have to do chemo, and then they did some extra testing and it was like, oh, you're gonna have to do a little bit of chemo. And then we got a second opinion and it was like, no, you're gonna do, you know, the real deal chemo. And just, I think as the progression of things kept on going, it was just like, okay, you know, like I'm for whatever reason, and I'm sure it's a really damn good one, you know, I'm the one that's chosen to go on this adventure and, you know, like be in this journey. And so like I have to be as fluid as I can possibly be for my own well-being during it, because if I tried in any way, shape, or form to resist what was happening, it was not going to be any benefit to me, because the craziest realization and like thing to come to was just like, you have cancer. Like you can't, no matter what you do, you can't undo anything, you can't change it. There's nothing you can do except for like take the steps that are right in, you know, that are in front of you. That it's kind of like that, you know, like what we were talking about, like that ugly, painful part that isn't pleasant, that leads to a positive thing, you know. Like I think just kind of realizing like, all right, this is gonna suck, you know, and it is bad, and coming to kind of just reality with the facts of the negative parts of the situation, and then realizing where my role in combating that and taking my awareness to try to overcome those kinds of things, and really like, I don't know, once I realized that it's okay for me to feel as crappy as I was feeling, it kind of provided me the space to work on how I could relieve those feelings, you know what I mean? Because for a while there I was trying to like chest up, I can take this, like as if the crazy ass drugs that they give you aren't gonna, I mean, immediately just like, or inevitably rather, are gonna like play an impact on you, you know what I mean? Like when they give you your treatment and administer your medication, like they're wearing gloves and like they don't get that shit on them, you know what I mean? Like they don't want that on them. So it definitely does something to your body and your brain, and I think just like learning to accept what that was and like kind of giving myself a break on struggling so hard let me learn how to not struggle, because I was trying to fight it for the longest time, you know, because everybody was like, oh, you know, you're so strong, you're so strong, you're so strong, and I'm like, man, that's a lot of pressure, you know. Like sometimes I need to just fucking cry my eyes out because I'm depressed about what's going on, you know. And once I realized that I, like, you know, can give myself permission to like feel that pain and that hurt, then it made it way easier for me to like enjoy the time that I'm not actually going through the pain and the hurt, you know what I mean? Rather than this like constant hum of trying to like keep it all at bay, when I like jumped right into it and was kind of like, you know, looking it right in the face, it made it way, and I mean, and I feel like I did that most of the time, but the chemo stuff, man, it was just a whole other world, you know what I mean? Like once you start, the first round didn't really feel side effects that much, and